Okay, this is Dylan Toe from Everlook Photography, and today I'm going to introduce you to the Nisi system of filters, and by way of comparison to what most people own, which is the Lee system of filters. So going through panel by panel, the top two panels is what you get with the Lee system, with the Nisi system if you go ahead. You have a holder which is made of aluminium, a bit sturdier than the Lee, and you get an 82mm adapter ring. But instead of having to buy separate adapter rings, there are step down rings for 77, 72 and 67 that you all get within the kit. And also within the kit is probably the main innovation of Nisi, which is this circular polarizer which actually fits within the adapter ring. But we'll talk about that when we get to the setup. With the Lee system, most of you would be familiar with this. Kind of flimsy, plasticky holder, but it's still fairly sturdy. I haven't had any issues with it, and you have to buy separate adapter rings for each different lens that you have in terms of its diameter. So onto the filters themselves. There's very little between the Nisi and the Lee filters in terms of their build. Perhaps the best to compare would be the 3-stop softs, which I have in the Lee version on the left and the Nisi on the right. You can see a very slight difference in the appearance or the color of the glass. The Lee looks slightly on the green side and the Nisi looks slightly on the magenta side. But overall, from the written review, the cast that both leave is fairly minimal. In terms of the ND filters, I got a Nisi 10-stop set to try out. My Lee 10-stop broke, but I've got a Lee 6-stop and a Lee 3-stop. So you probably can't tell much of the difference in cast just by looking at this by way of how dark they are. But just to turn this around, you can see that the Nisi, like the Lee, has a padding around there to stop light leak if you use it on the closest slot on the actual filter holder itself. So just to compare, similar to the Lee with the padding to stop light leak. Okay, so I'll leave those there. Now the other things that I was sent by Nisi were a filter holder. Now my previous one is made of cloth, and I had issues with that because when the cloth became dirty and you were taking filters in and out, then invariably the filters would also get very dirty. So this is built for 4x6 or 10x15 centimeters, and they slot straight in if they are a 4x6, so they fit in just like that, and they don't touch each other, which is good. If you have a 4x4 that you want to slot in, you need to use one of these modules, put it in there before you put the filter in, and then it becomes reachable at the top. Now you do have to remember where you put those modules, because if you accidentally put it in the wrong one, you could end up fishing for the filter, which is gone. It's not so much of a hassle, but if you've got other filters in there, you might end up having to tip the whole thing out. Okay, so very sturdy and no contact, which are positives. The modules, you just have to remember where the filters are. And in terms of the other packaging, they come in nice leather cases. And I've got a DSLR here to show you how I would go about setting up things in the field with both systems. Okay, so I've got my old 5D Mark II and a Canon 16 to 35mm wide-angle lens, which is what I would use in the field. It's got a 77mm front thread, and I take most of my shots with a polarizer on, so I've actually got a circular polarizer on. And this is my old setup with the Lee system. Now, in terms of the Lee filters that I use, I don't have a 105mm polarizer that goes right in front of the whole filter setup. So I'll show you what I have been doing in terms of getting polarizers set up with the filter system. So what I would do is to put the Lee system on, what I would have to do is to get a 77mm adapter ring and try to jam it onto the front of the circular polarizer. So make sure I don't get fingerprints on it. Got a Kim wipe there. Now I'm doing this in real time and not editing it, because it kind of shows you the hassle that goes with doing something like this. And sometimes it goes on, sometimes it doesn't. Right, so that's the adapter ring on. It means you can still kind of turn the polarizer. You get some vignetting out to about 18 millimeters or so by doing this. Okay. And then once the adapter ring's on, with the Lee system, click it on. There you have it, okay? And you're set to go. Now, in terms of how easily things fit on, the Lee system I've never had really any trouble with. So for instance, if I want to put the Nisi filter into there, if I put the 10 stop in, it just slots straight in, no hassles, nice and easy, tight enough. Okay, and take that out. Now if I want to change orientation, then the difficulty with this setup is if I change it, then the polarization changes as well. So I've got to try and move the polarizer, the whole setup, and hope that the polarizer moved with the adapter ring. So it's not ideal, but the other alternative is to get a 105mm front ring with a big polarizer in front, and I've heard that that does cause some significant vignetting as well. So they're the limitations with the Lee system, and I'll take that all apart now. Once again, in real time, and put the Kim wipe on and screw off the adapter ring. Off it comes. Now I've been using the Lee system for a while, so even though that's a bit of an awkward setup, I can still do it fairly quickly in the field. Now I'm going to demonstrate to you the Nisi system now, which doesn't need the polarizer at the front because there's a polarizer within the filter. So this is the 82mm adapter ring, and the thing that's unique about this is that the circular polarizer just sits in it. Okay, there we go. So that's just because I haven't used the system very much, but it really isn't a lot of trouble to put that polarizer in. Now, the way you turn the polarizer here is this knob here. Okay, so there's a knob on the side here that you turn around, and if I turn it, you can actually see the ring turning around. So that's how the polarization works with the Nisi. So you can't do it very quickly like you can with a normal polarizer, but really it's like maybe a couple of seconds extra time, so I don't find that really much of an impediment. Okay, so that's the ring setup with the polarizer on. Now you then have to put in the step down ring, so 77mm goes at the front end, not unlike the Lee system. Except the only thing is with step down rings is instead of just the one ring and then snapping on the adapter, you then have to put on the original 82mm ring on top of that. And that isn't usually a drama, but I can imagine the extra step in a cold environment where light is changing quickly, you may get a little bit frustrated from time to time. So in terms of the build, I like the build of the Nisi better. It seems sturdier, and so far to date with the 3 slots I haven't had any problems with vignetting. My main issue is where it clips on. It's very small, and I wonder whether or not one day I might accidentally have the whole filter holder fall off. That hasn't happened to me so far, but I haven't used it very much. So similar setup to the Lee, click on, and there you go. Now the other difference between the Nisi and the Lee, and this is personal preference once again, is how tight you like your filters to fit on. You saw what we did with the Lee before, and this is with a Nisi 10 stop, so putting that on the closest filter, pushing it in. So there's a little bit more resistance, but that's not too bad really. Putting on another Nisi filter, say the 3 stop soft in a filter in front. I would usually have 2 hands for this because it would be tripod mounted. But once again, you can see, you probably can't see it, but I can certainly feel it, particularly at the bottom end, just a little bit more resistance. And once again, with what I thought was a bit of a loose fit for the ring, I wonder if one day I might just push the whole thing off, and that would be a disaster to lose all your filters. So, taking it off, once again you can see the resistance there. And just to demonstrate, if you have lots of Lee filters that you still want to use, you can still use them with this set, but they do tend to fit a bit tighter still than the Nisi one. See, you can really see that resistance there now, can't you? Pushing it in. Okay. Now coming out, pretty hard. So good that it's tight, but probably a little bit too tight of a fit, particularly with non-Nisi filters, whereas the Lee is a little bit more forgiving for both. Okay, so just taking that off. And to disassemble it, ring off, get it off the adapter ring, and well, in this particular thing, the rings come off with it, and I can put a lens cap on. But if you use filters a lot, I think it would be nice if Nisi could come up with a system where the step down ring stays on and you can cover the front element, because at this stage you can't. So I'm having to take this whole thing off and then put the lens cap on to protect the front element of the lens. Okay, so just to reiterate again, the advantage of the Nisi system, I think, is the in-filter holder polarizer, and the fact that the build of the actual filter holder itself is sturdier. Financially, you get the 3 step-down rings within the set that you buy, whereas with the Lee system you have to buy each separate adapter ring separately. But the disadvantage of the Nisi is really kind of, I haven't really tested it in the field enough, but I am concerned about this very small locking mechanism, and I am concerned that the tightness of some of the filters, particularly non-Nisi filters, fitting into their system. So there you have it. That's all I have for now. I'll continue to use the Nisi filter system on future field trips and hopefully be able to give you more examples of images.